Hello, I'm Mario Toneguzzi, and today my guest is Calgary City Councillor Sonya Sharp, who is running for mayor in the next election. Thanks, Sonya, for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, Mario.
Let's talk about the reasons. Why are you running
Well, I would say that given the alternatives that we have today, or Calgarians have today, they are not, I think, what Calgary needs. I have something different to offer. I think Calgarians deserve better. I am ready to reconnect Calgarians back to their local government. We have been going outside our lane, especially the last 4 years. And, what differentiates me from the rest is my in-depth understanding and knowledge of how the city operates. And it's time that, we stick to what our job is, and that is core services and making sure our city stays safe and that it's affordable for all.
Why should people vote for you?
Well, people should vote for me. Looking at my history, looking at my passion for city service, I've actually served the city my entire career. Also, my almost sorry, almost half my entire life. I'll let people do the math to that. And I have a passion for public service. You don't go into public service for all the credit or all the accolades or everyone loving you. You go into it for making some decisions that might be very difficult, and you're also looking at the candidate, and I hope people look at me. I'm authentic. I'm not selling something that's not there. I am me, and I love the city. And I would say, looking at the candidates that are out there, some of them are repeats from the last election. We have an incumbent. Calgarians need to do their own research. And I will say that I'm ready to fight for what's right for Calgarians, and I really hope Calgarians see that in me. And my platform will be coming out a little bit later in the summer, but I do think that I'm the right person to lead the city where it needs to go and get it back on track. And I have a track record working at the city, and I've delivered results. And I've also worked with all levels of government, regardless which banner that government's under. So, like your provincial government or your federal government, relationships are key in moving things forward. And I have been very strong in that area over the years. And so we need to focus on delivering what's in our lane, and I'm the right person for that.
For yourself as a councillor of the past few years? How
Mhm.
frustrating has it been to be, you haven't been the lone wolf out there, so to speak, but there's some other councillors that
Mhm.
like-minded. But how frustrating has it been to deal with this incumbent mayor and the majority of city council and decisions that they've put through?
I think it's how you handle the disappointment of not having things cross council floor, or getting supported. The I would bring everything kind of back to budget. It's like a goalie in hockey letting not being able to save any goals. It's been hard, but I'm fighting for the right reasons, and so are some of those incumbents you would see on Communities First. It's difficult and frustrating because we've listened to Calgarians. We bring forward things they're asking for, and especially when it comes to our community. If a member of council is representing their community, they know their community best. And for other members of council to, bring something on someone else's community or towards someone else's community, or even vote against that counselor representing their community, that's frustrating. And, I have seen many times where I have advocated for my community and was something that they didn't want. And members of council supported it, and it barely gets supported. It was an 8-7 vote. Blanket rezoning was one of them. Some of the developments that happened in Bowness, the water issue that I tried to bring an infrastructure kind of a investigation just to the communities of Bowness and Montgomery, that failed. And it kind of blows my mind a little bit because these are communities that are so old. And so those are the things that I get frustrated about. They're not listening, but that's also reflected back to Calgarians. You're not listening. You lose respect of Calgarians, you lose trust. And the only people they can put their trust in is those that they've elected. We're the ones put there from the communities, not administration. They don't have a shelf life like we do.
Yeah.
And so if you do your job and you do it well, there's a good chance you're coming back. But if I thought majority of this council was doing their job, I probably wouldn't be running for mayor. And we probably wouldn't have formed a slate or a party to run against majority of them. And so, it is frustrating, but I also know that because those face-to-face conversations with my constituents, they mean a lot. And I do speak to a lot of people, not just in Ward 1, but around the city. They're not happy with things that they see or what's been decided on.
Now, you mentioned communities first. I wonder if you
Right.
could talk a little bit about that, first of all,
Hmm.
what it is and who's involved and the reason why that it was formed.
So Communities First was formed by a group of us so it was some current members of council, so Councillor Chabot, Wong, and McLean, and John Marr, former Alderman John Marr. We got together with some strategists to look at the new provincial legislation that was passed last year. And really, what that was is it's technically just formalizing a process that was already on council. There was already a slate. There was already a kind of a party that was brought in 2021. So we started to put together some principles that we all have in common, and like-minded. We're very like-minded, and we represent our communities, represent them first. We look at the bigger picture. So we have brought in more candidates at this point. At the launch and fundraiser, you would have seen those candidates stand up there on stage. There's more to come, and they go through an intense vetting process. But we are very organized. We're very ambitious to get work done and take some action. So that's kind of communities first, and I'm the mayoral candidate for that. And so it's interesting because this, I would say, idea is, like I said, is not new, formalized by the province, and we are moving forward with it. But we're also starting to see parties pop up on all the sides now. So we've seen, there's a far left party popping up with new members running. Some of them ran in the last election. There's one kind of further to the right. They're just starting out. But there's going to be an advantage if you're running with a party because you need 8 votes to get things across the finish line.
Mm.
So we're hoping that we're all successful and we can move things forward. And so Communities First is going to be very transparent this whole next 200 days. And I would really implore Calgarians to get to know all the candidates on this party.
Is the intent to have a candidate for each ward?
I think what's important is we're going to run as many candidates as we can, and those that qualify and have the same principles and values we do. And so, we have some announcements coming out very soon, and then there'll be more candidates coming out after the federal election, and we will just keep moving forward. And people have reached out. We do interview people. We have coffee with them, but we decide by caucus. We don't just I don't just make a decision that this person should be a candidate or Andre. It doesn't work like that. We meet as a group of like a caucus type mind group, and we talk about those candidates or we talk about those individuals and we say, okay, like, let's see if they're interested still. And we have those conversations with them. And so we're happy to see that some of them were there at the launch. I'm not sure if they introduced themselves as the candidates that they'll be running in certain wards, but they're going to be great and they are going to fight for the right reasons that we're fighting for. And I'm really happy to see them alongside all of us on this.
Let's talk a little bit about the campaign to running for mayor. How different
Mhm.
is it to beat an incumbent?
Actually, it's not easy to beat an incumbent, and I was trying to figure out when last time an incumbent mayor was beat, and someone said it was Ralph Klein days, and I'm not quite sure because every time someone's kind of run and moved in was there was an empty seat,
Yeah.
and so that that's the difference here. When I ran for Ward 1, there was an incumbent at first. Ward Sutherland was there, and then he had stepped away. So I was running in an empty seat. This will be different. You do have an incumbent, and this person is a member of council. So, you maintain professionalism. You still have a job to do for the next 200 days, not just like a day job. We both have a day job. We both have to govern. We both sit on council. And campaigning is different than when it is when running an award. It's the whole city. And we're all vying, both of us will be vying for, the media attention, people attention. And I think what's important is Calgarians will, figure out who the best candidate is moving forward and make that decision on October 20th. But I am going to give everyone a run for their money. I am going to bring things out differently than they are, and I know they are, and I know I will. It's just my personality, and they're not naive to know that I'm going to work hard to win that seat. So they've worked with me for so many years. They're going to know that. They can't deny that. And I'll be honest, and I know what, certain strengths and weaknesses I have, and I'm sure they know that as well. But you have to respect each other, know that this is a campaign, and know that there's life outside of politics. That's the most important thing here. What people have to realize, we are still human. So, being the incumbent or someone running in those seats is we still have a life outside in the place. And I don't mean like life as in like, you're going out. I mean, we still have families. We have elderly parents, and we still respect that of each other because that's really important. And I really admire and when people can park politics sometimes because of something personal going on, and that's important. So it's not going to be easy, but I'm ready for it.
Now, when you look at the campaign,
Mhm.
there's quite a few that are running, right? As so far that have declared, right? And some named candidates. Does it concern you to have that many running that would maybe split the vote, especially the current mayor doesn't have that great approval rating, so obviously people may be looking for change, but there's a lot of options out there.
Yeah, this is, it's an interesting question. I have been given this question a couple of times, and there's a lot of people out there who assume that the portion of the vote belongs to them. And if one or more candidate of that type runs, you're splitting the vote. I don't believe that. I believe that, and maybe I'm naive to say this, but I always thought an election is the best idea wins, the best a candidate wins. And I think I have the best idea. So of course I'm going to push myself for that. So there's always this like there's I don't know, there's this conversation happening right now. There's too many candidates just like you guys are going to split the vote. But are we? And those candidates that are rerunning, are we really reliving a 2021 election all over again? Because is that what Calgarians are asking for? They're not asking for that. And we have a new group with a new group of kamikaze, I'll call them candidates who that, was run by a certain individual last time. And most of those candidates are not even running again. So what does that mean? Calgarians are looking for leadership that literally listens and reflects on what Calgarians are asking for and delivers. And so we got to like the moments where, Calgarians wake up and they open the paper or they get onto. So when I hear about the vote splitting thing, I kind of chuckle because I think, is it their vote to get? And may the best candidate get those votes because that's what we're all going after.
Now, I don't think it's any secret that one of the keys for winning an election in Calgary for mayor is that northeast quadrant of the
Yeah.
city and the vote.
Hmm.
Um, and I think if you go back historically, that's the quadrant that's elected the mayors. What
Hmm.
are you going to do to tap into that market that your message resonates with them in that sector?
Yeah, and I mean, I already have great relationships with a lot of, I would say, well-established individuals in the Northeast. Um, the one thing that, I mean, culturally, I also understand the demographics out there. They're hardworking individuals. I come from a hardworking family, and I relate to, their values. And I think what they are looking for is someone not to pull the wool over their eyes again and understand what it means to work hard and not do things that they're not looking for either, and the value for tax dollars. So that's really important. And, to embrace embrace what they're looking for, it takes a certain type. And like that's what I mean about being like just yourself and authentic. There's days I'm not polished, and forgive me for that, right? And there's days where, I know exactly what needs to be done. But I think what's important for the communities in like the Northeast, and not just the Northeast, you're talking like there's the Southeast as well. I know the Northeast does generally elected the person coming in, but you've got to communicate and respect and cooperate with these communities and understand what they're looking for, but genuinely care so they can trust you. And that comes off authentically. And so I've already had a lot of conversations with, like I said, key individuals in those communities. So I'm hoping to build that relationship more as the campaign goes on.
When you look at the key issues, I'm going to ask you a couple of quick questions about some of them, maybe mine. But what's your thoughts on the state of infrastructure in the city?
Sorry, say that again.
What's your thoughts on the state of infrastructure in this?
Oh, the infrastructure in the city. We're about 10 years behind infrastructure. And, and I can say that because I was a member of administration, and I know what past councils spent money on and what they didn't spend money on. And, when you think about what's been going on with some of the water issues with our bridges, with congestion, we're behind. And this council, it wasn't a priority out of the gate. And now all of a sudden it is a priority because we have failing infrastructure. So, we can talk about it being our problem. Yeah, it was our problem. But there were too many things that, it kind of put to the sideline. There was too many things that overshadowed some of the big priorities. So infrastructure is critical to moving people in the city. We've got some, we've started moving on some certain projects like the Green Line, which is great. We have a better relationship with the province. Could it be better? Yes. Can we move forward at least on some track being laid? We need to. Do we need to develop the downtown a little bit better? Yes. But infrastructure is a really big part about cities like ours because of how we are kind of placed, our weather, like we all want people to use all modes of transit, all modes of like what I call the mobility, the whole mobility package, your transits, your bike lanes, your mobility lanes, your cars. Everyone needs to get around the city. So we need to adapt to what's changing, what people are asking for, but we are behind, and it needs to be a priority of the next council 100%, next to some other things that we've kind of had that are starting to rise up to the top.
All right. And if elected, and if you have a slate of community first people in there as city councilors, what will you do with the rezoning?
So the rezoning has been talked about. I know that Councillor Chabot has mentioned in the past that we are looking to some sort of repeal or bringing a different bylaw to replace what was approved. That what that looks like right now, we wouldn't know. But what we do know is what the percentage of Calgarians that didn't support that, and it is still a hot topic. I know that there's some members and council now, or even some, political folks from the universities and colleges saying, it's not going to be a ballot issue. Well, it is because we know it just doesn't stop. Even at certain events that we go to that have nothing to do with planning, it comes up. It comes up at conversations where you never thought it would come up. But people are really upset about it. The other thing I'll say about the blanket rezoning is I don't think it's achieved what everyone said it was going to achieve. It was not building affordable housing. And I mean affordable housing as in like nonprofit. That's a whole different topic. Um, what it's done is actually made more communities go through the appeal process. And some of those communities now are winning. So the inner city developers are getting a bit of pushback on that. And so it's not doing what it's, I think, intended to do. And it's freeing up more land, but are we seeing the houses being built? And then the influx of application at City Hall caused a backlog.
Yeah.
And so, like, I think there needed to be more thought on that. There were, over 90 initiatives of the housing strategy, which I support all of them but the blanket rezoning. And so I think what we need to do if we win is sit down and say, what does this look like? And to say that you can just do a full sweep of land use change like that across the city was a bit irresponsible in my eyes. And we should have piloted probably in certain communities. I brought notices of motion just to cut the red tape. They failed. But I think with a new council, it's okay to try something again and see if what happens with it. But Councillor Chabot will be leading that charge once we're elected.
All right. Other big issue, obviously, for me and
Mm-hmm.
thousands of others is every year I look at my tax assessment and it goes up. Uh, what are your
Mm-hmm.
thoughts on property taxes and what could happen?
Yeah, so property tax is an interesting one. So the property tax rate, we set that, council sets that. And we've seen an increase in this council. I think we're about 18.5% in the last 4 years. And that's a lot. And Calgarians are saying, so what are we getting for that? What I don't, I've even heard from people, I don't care if my taxes go up as long as I know what I'm getting for that. And so what is that? What are Calgarians getting for that? Are they getting their potholes filled like on the streets? Is snow being cleared 100%? The value for tax is still one of those things that is not explained 100%. And some of those things that came to council for every, I think it's just for every 22 million or 23 million, it's a percent to the tax rate. So when you raise the taxes that much, and then you see assessment values increasing like they have, and I know homes in Silver Springs went up 60%. Guess what their tax bill is? It's large. And I feel for those Calgarians that saw that, especially the last year. And we can't do anything about the assessment. We will tell them they can appeal it, but we can do something about the tax rate because that's ours. And so to know that Calgarians are struggling with their bottom line because we can't control grocery prices, I can't control mortgage rates, it's hard to know that you fought for finding efficiencies, and then you get those emails after that assessment comes out, and you meet constituents and they're in tears because they can no longer afford the home that they've lived in for 40 years, and they can't even downsize because the value that they might get from the market isn't the value that the assessment is saying. So it's hard, and I think that needs to be a focus as well for the new council. They're going to have to, like, there's going to be a lot of new people. And so that's why working with a slate, we're educating these candidates on what to expect when it comes to winning in October and then being presented with a budget and then being presented with a 4 year budget cycle. So, the reason we need to work together with the slate is that we need to make sure we're all on the same page when it comes to delivering the things that Calgarians are asking for. And if that means the reduction in taxes, great. If it means you're holding the line, okay. But if you're increasing them, why? And so those are three things you need to think about. And I know that Calgarians are eager to understand what that will look like in November.
Okay, last question for you, Sonia.
Yeah.
When you look at the city hall and city
Hmm.
administration, um, is it too bureaucratic right now? And what will you do about it? And when I talk about too bureaucratic, I mean it in two senses. A, the number of people, and then B, just the whole process of it operating.
Yeah. So, I mean, the bureaucracy at City Hall has grown. Like the top level management has grown a lot in the last 3.5 years. I was there 20 years. We did a lot with less when I was working for administration. I know the city is growing, like the city of Calgary is growing, but the city has also grown. Like administration's grown, I think, 3 times as much since 2021, and that's a lot of new full-time employees. My biggest thing with the city that I've always an advocate for is the org chart needs to be flipped upside down. The most important people at City Hall are on the bottom of the org chart. They need to be at the top of the org chart. They're the ones delivering the services day to day. They're the ones, picking up the garbage. They're the ones maybe coming out and talking to a constituent because of a road issue. Those are your most important people. The layers of approval, though, that is growing. There's been different departments. There's like 5 different layers in that department. I'm just, it's like it's become a huge corporation. That's not how a city government should be run. It should be efficient. It needs to have seamless approvals. We should not be seeing things take hours to get approved when it comes to a communication strategy. And I say that because I worked there, but I also was involved in some of the bigger issues that have happened, including the water. And, for to saying to administration, have you got that communication out? Because my constituents are, waiting. Well, it still has to go through the approvals process. So then as a councillor, I'll be like, okay, no, I'll just do my own thing because I'm faster and I'm more efficient. And I know my office is smaller, but we oversee. So if I look at it this way, I have, 114,000 Ward 1 constituents. I've taken over half of Ward 6. My approvals process is me looking at what my team has sent me and making a decision. I
Mhm.
don't think you need to go through 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 layers of
Yeah.
administration to get something out the door.
Wonderful. Well, thanks, Sonia, for joining.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
All right. Thanks a lot. And that's Sonia Sharp, who is Calgary City Councillor running for mayor. And I'm Mario Toneguzzi. Thanks for joining us today.